Did you ever have problems to plan your Pantheon and create an overview for your players? Do you sometimes stare at a blank article template and just don't know how to start? Or do you sometimes think yourself into a corner and don't know how to get out of it? Then this article may be for you. Today I will show you how I plan and create a Pantheon overview on World Anvil. As usual, you will need a World Anvil account. The freemium account will be enough, but as usual you will have more options to work with as a Grandmaster or higher subscription. I will use my Inner Sanctum account today. In addition, you will need your inspiration sources. These may be books about mythology, your own notes, or the creation myth of your own world. I would also suggest that you have a look at the pantheons of other settings, like the Forgotten Realms or Golarion. For your article, you will need images. They should either show the holy symbols of your deities or the deities themselves. If you don't have your images yet, you can also use a placeholder image. For my own images, I decided on a 2:3 ratio. In the first step, you will create your article and select the best template for it. When it comes to pantheons, there are two options which would be suitable: organization or generic. While organization will give you some advantages like template prompts, I prefer the generic template. Especially with overview articles, I like to design and structure the article more freely, which is best with the generic article template. Once you picked your template, create your article and name it in any way you like. I prefer a simple and telling name, which is why I named mine Pantheon. In this case, I will begin the process not as usual with the vignettes. Instead, I will start within the sidebar. This is where I will decide on the basics of the Pantheon by using the World Anvil codes for key and value. The first option I need to decide on is the type of Pantheon I want to have. I will use the World Builder's Guidebook as a guide again. Of course, you can find an affiliate link to that in the video description. When it comes to the Pantheon, there are two different types: universal or cultural. In the case of Andravin and Ivroon respective, I will have a universal Pantheon, but it's not worshipped in any region equally. Some deities, for example, are relevant at the Gemstone Coast, but are pretty much unknown in Inarius. Others are of interest to the nomadic people in central Ivroon, but have no influence in the urban areas along the coast. The type of Pantheon is still universal, but I will make a note that there are regional differences. The next decision I have to make is the organization within the Pantheon. Is it a family? Various families. Are they heroes which ascended to godhood? Is it a mix of different forms? For Andravin, I want to have the family take, and I will also add that to the sidebar. The third question is how involved the Pantheon is into the life of mortals. Do they appear regularly, mingling with the living, or is it not even secure that these deities still care about the world? In Andravin, the deities are pretty involved in the matters of mortals and mingle with their creations. I will also note that in the sidebar. Next, it's time for the basic article structure. This is where you will make more decisions which will influence your world building in a certain way. First, I need to mention that I decided to write an introductory paragraph in the vignette, but keep the content within the full width footer. If you do not have access to that, you will need to work with the vignette entirely. When it comes to structure, the first step is in which categories do you want to divide the Pantheon. Some pantheons, like the Nordic for example, are several families. In other cases, the division is made into greater and lesser deities. For Andravin, I decided on a mixed variation. There are families within the Pantheon, but there are also differences with power and influence these deities hold. I will create a division of family generation, with the 8 original deities being the first generation of deities. To insert the information about your deities, you should create a certain raster. If you don't have access to custom containers, you can do so by using a row call structure, which will allow you to have about 3 deities per row. When you do have access to custom containers, you can create a custom raster, like I did. It's best to decide at this point how you want to structure your deity entry too. I would suggest to use an allowed or a quote as a card, but if you have access to custom containers, you can also create a custom card by using the elements from the CSS tutorial, which I linked up above here. Personally, I decided to have the name and the portfolio of a deity within the card, alongside an image of the deity, of course. Once you're done with your card template, you should copy it and paste it into Advanced Tools and Options and the Scrapbook section. This way, you can copy it whenever you need to add another deity. With your article structure in place, it's time to think about your deities and start your actual world building process. This is not about the personal relations or differences within a family or anything, but on deciding the portfolio of the deities which are worshipped in your worlds. If you have a look at the human nature, the first deities will be pretty sure responsible for the basic needs and phenomena of nature. This means that deities of hunting, farming, family, or fertility, as well as elemental deities, are important in this step. Think about the things which were important to the people at the very beginning of their civilization. The more important certain aspects are for the daily life of the people, the more influential the deity will be. Let's have a look at a society that suffers from destructive storms every year. They would worship a deity of storms and thunder, hoping that they could get to the sweet side of this deity and prevent the storms. On the other hand, a society in very dry regions will worship a deity of fertility to make sure they have enough food each year and protect the fertility of the land that they live on. If your world has an important feature like the Song of Creation on Anvil, this feature will probably have an important deity too. While society evolves, it will create more deities, which will have an influence over the new important things. However, probably the portfolio of existing deities will expand first before there are new deities. Let's have a closer look at one of my deities, Nis. Since the end of creation, he was the deity and patron of the Song of Creation. He is the personification of the first sound that ever occurred. As the people on Anvil evolved, they discovered that poetry and the bards expand the song and make it more powerful. So it was only natural that Nis became responsible of poetry too. I will cover the most important elements by following the same pattern. In a large pantheon, like the one from Anvil, I will make sure that no deity has more than 3 aspects assigned to their portfolio. As soon as the number crosses that line, I create another deity which is subsidiary or related to the previous one. As a measurement how important and powerful a deity is overall, I have a look at how widespread they are worshipped and how people would value their influence. To state it simple, more people will worship a deity that is supposed to make sure that they have food on the table each day, as there are people worshipping a deity that is supposed to make a weapon more stable and durable. Back in the article, I will now insert all the planned deities and fill the respective data in. To do so, just copy the template you built before and paste it to the respective section of your article. How much detail you add in is up to you, but I will stick with the structure I explained earlier. When it comes to the names of the deities, I add a placeholder link so I can easily create the respective article if I want to. If there is already an article for the deity, I will link it. You may already have noticed that I don't cover relations of the deities in this overview article and in this tutorial. This is on purpose. These details will be added in the character articles of the deities. There I will also add a family tree to depict the family relations in more detail. Last, I will tag the article so I can assign and filter it more easily. For this article, I picked the tag Pantheon, which will be assigned to every deity, and Universal, which is assigned to each overview article. For later CSS stuff, I will also give the article an additional class, which is Universal. And that's it with today's world building snippet. I hope I was able to give you an overview about my process of creating such an article, because I do so for most types of overview articles, always following the same process as depicted here. If this video was helpful for you, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe. If you want to see more videos, you can have a look at my other playlists and videos here. Until next week, bye bye!